Alright, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Keenan. Welcome to today's vlog. Here to wrap things up with my grades for this year's NFL draft heading into the AFC South division. Now I'm going to begin with the division champion Houston Texans. I kind of like their draft selections. Starting with their first pick, they ended up getting Whitney Merciless, the sack master out of the Fighting Illini of Illinois. He had 16 sacks last season, and I think he's going to be a big upgrade to that defensive line and another good pass rusher to go along with J.J. Watts on the opposite side of the field. I think this is going to be a good two good pass rushers, and I think they both can be the premier pass rushers in the future in the National Football League, depending on how they develop for the next couple of seasons. Now, their second selection, they went with a good receiver in Devier Posey out of the Ohio State Buckeyes. In the later rounds, they ended up picking up another receiver, Keyshawn Martin out of Michigan State. I think he's a good receiver, and I think he's going to be used more as a return specialist, which means looks like they're going to start turning loose on Jacoby Jones, the receiver for the Houston Texans. They're looking to release him, and I think with these picking of these two players, it pretty much shows and reveals the indications of them releasing Jacoby Jones. Now, in the later rounds, they picked up a good guard / center, Ben Jones out of Georgia in the 4th round. I think this could have been a little bit of a steal. Now, the reason why he dropped to the 4th round is because he has limited athleticism, but I think he's a good overall football player, high football IQ, and he is a natural knee bender, so I think he can play the center position, but I honestly believe that he's going to go with the guard position. The Houston Texans are going to put him at the guard position. This kid has a good high motor, good IQ, smart kid, a lot of experience at Georgia, and this is going to be a good addition to help out Matt Schaub in that passing game, as well as being a good pulling guard for Arian Foster, who just signed a big contract. Also, in the later rounds, they picked up a kicker, Randy Bullock, out of Texas A&M. He was the Lou Groza Award winner this past season for the nation's best placed kicker. And they picked up another good defensive lineman, in Jarrett Crick out of Nebraska. He would have been a first or second round selection had he not got hurt last season. He had a big junior year. He was one of my watch lists for last season's college football year. And because of those injuries that he suffered through the year, it kind of brought his draft stock dropped to the 4th round. But I really think that's still a good selection, and he could be a gem for the Houston Texans. Now, overall for their grade, I'm going to give them a B-. I think they probably could have did a little bit better and picking up a better receiver than Keyshawn Martin. Like I said, Keyshawn Martin is a decent receiver, but he's going to be used more as a return specialist. But I did like the selection with Devier Posey and the other kids altogether. A couple of injury problems with Jarrett Critt, and that's why I had to put them as a B- overall. Next team to talk about, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they really need some help on that offensive side, and they finally picked up a good receiver in Justin Blackmon out of Oklahoma State. The Jaguars actually took a slot up, a couple slots up in the NFL draft. They started at pick number 7, but they went up 2 slots, and they picked up Justin Blackmon, the receiver out of Oklahoma State, and he's going to be a big weapon for this team. But he's already off to a bad start. Was off a couple of mini-camp practices for the rookies due to a sore right foot. But I think he's going to be just fine for the season opener. He should start right away for this team. The second selection, they picked up a good defensive end, a versatile defensive end, in Andre Grant out of Clemson. He can play both the 4-3 and the 3-4 defense. I thought that was a good selection. Now, here was a question mark that I had for everybody with their selection. In the 3rd round, they went with a punter, Brian Anger out of California. This kid is an excellent punter, but I think it was a little bit too soon to pick up a punter at the 3rd round. 3rd round, you can still pick up good, valuable players who can play all throughout the entire game, and not just a punter who plays a third of the game at most. And I was a little bit concerned about that pick. If he was picked in the 5th round, then I might understand, but in the 3rd, it's a little bit too early to go with a punter. But hey, he is a good weapon, and maybe the Jaguars are looking forward to using him more as a weapon, just like Ray Guy was during his stay at the Oakland Raiders. Sorry about that. And then the later rounds, they picked up a good outside linebacker out of Nebraska, Brandon Marshall. He had 102 tackles last season. I think he could work well with Darryl Smith and Paul Posnowski. And they finally picked up a cornerback in the later rounds in Mike Harris out of Florida State University. I think he's an okay player. He had 14 pass breakups for the past couple of seasons, and he did not just under 100 tackles overall. He's coming out out of JUCO, junior college, and he ended up getting enrolled into Florida State. And I think he had a good year for the past 2 seasons. But I think they could have went with a better cornerback. And the reason, and that puts me to give them overall a C as their grade. I think they could have had a better cornerback, and they desperately needed a cornerback. Going up a couple of slots, I thought they were going to go with the cornerback and Morris Claiborne out of LSU, and they had the opportunity to do so, but they decided to go with Justin Blackman, and I can't hate on that, but I think in the later rounds they could have picked up a better cornerback. Now, next team to talk about, the Indianapolis Colts. Love their draft pick, starting with the #1 overall selection, Andrew Luck out of Stanford. He is a for sure starter for this team, and he would get a lot of help, especially with their next 2 selections. They went with 2 tight ends, Kobe Fleener, Andrew Luck's teammate at Stanford, and Dwayne Allen, the tight end out of Clemson. And it looks like that the Colts offense is looking forward and using a double tight set scheme, just like how Stanford used it while Andrew Luck was staying at Stanford. And I think they're going to keep him familiarized with a couple of playing schemes that he already knows. Dealing with an already pro-style offense, this kid, Andrew Luck, should be ready right away, and he has 2 weapons immediately as rookies. Now, they picked up a couple of good players in the later rounds. T.Y. Hilton in the 3rd round, I think he's going to be a good return threat. And they picked up a good defensive tackle out of Alabama, and Josh Chapman. I think with his speed and power at 302 pounds, he could help out defend that run and help out that run defense of the Indianapolis Colts. In the later rounds, they picked up in the 5th round, they picked up Vic Ballard, the running back out of Mississippi State. Him, along with Donald Brown, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. They really need to develop a running game. Vic Ballard can be that guy, but Donald Brown did have a good season, over 600 yards overall, 4.8 yards per carry, and I think Donald Brown's going to be that go-to guy at the running back position. But they still have DeLon Carter, and with the addition of Vic Ballard, they're going to use all 3 of these guys in a rotation. Hopefully one of these guys will emerge and be that top running back for this team. They desperately need a running back to help out Andrew Luck as a rookie. And in the 6th round, they picked up a good receiver in Levon Brazil out of Ohio. He had over 1,100 yards receiving last season to go along with 11 touchdowns. He was actually one of my watch lists for the receivers as a gem/sleeper. I did like him a lot, and I think he could have the opportunity to start right away, because with Pierre Garçon now with the Washington Redskins, that gives us an open slot to put that #2 receiver, and Brazil does have the potential to be that #2 guy behind Reggie Wayne. Now, overall for this team, I'm going to give them a B+. They had a great draft, especially with the Andrew Luck pick. You definitely had to give them a lot more points for that and boost up their grades because of Luck. I think he's going to help this team pull out more wins than what they did last season. He's going to be on my watch list as Offensive Rookie of the Year this upcoming season. Next team to talk about, and final team, the Tennessee Titans. Starting with their first pick, they ended up getting Kendall Wright, the receiver out of Baylor. This was a great selection. I do like his hands and his route running ability. Some people think they overlook his route running ability. Some people think it's a little bit overrated, but I still like how crisp and clean he makes his cuts, as well as his speed and burst quickness right off the line of scrimmage once the ball is snapped. And I do like his speed after he receives his yards after catch. I apologize for that. His yards after catch is very effective, and I think this is going to be a great addition to that receiving corps and help out Jake Locker and Matt Hasselbeck, whoever's at quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Their second pick, they went with Zach Brown, the outside linebacker out of UNC, North Carolina. He had 102 tackles this past season, and I think he's a good rushing type outside linebacker, 13.5 tackles for loss last season, so he would definitely get into that backfield. One thing he needs to work on, shedding off blockers, and he sometimes has a little bit of a questionable football IQ. But I think with the development, with a little bit more development, some project work with this kid, he could become a good linebacker for this team. Their next pick, they went with Mike Martin, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. This kid was a state wrestling champion while he was in high school. He has a lot of power, but he does not have pass rushing ability, and the Tennessee Titans desperately need a pass rusher, and they kind of messed up on that particular department. They finally picked up a decent pass rusher out of Rice, Scott Solomon. He had 8.5 sacks last season, but they still need a premier pass rusher for this team. I had them going with Whitney Merciless, but he actually went with the Houston Texans, and I think they had an opportunity to probably trade up to pick up a good pass rusher, and I think that's what they needed most. And because of that, I'm going to give this team a C. If they had went for a pass rusher, I would have boosted their grade up a little bit more. Overall, these players, pretty good athletes. I do like the Zach Brown pick as well as the Kendall Wright, but if they had went with a defensive end, a valuable defensive end, I would have boosted up their grade a little bit more. So overall for this team, I'm going to give them a C. Now, next time to catch you guys is either Friday or Saturday. Actually, I'm actually decided today. I'm going to actually give you a video on Saturday to give you an overall evaluation of all these players in the NFL draft and give you some quick awards who I predict is going to be the rookies of the year, as well as the players to watch for the entire future of this for the NFL draft. Thank you for watching today's vlog from Pro Football Exclusive. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.